In 1966, you get an audition for the Newlywed Game.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
We had a basketball team at KRLA called the KRL Apes, and we would go out for charity, and we would play different college and high school faculties. So we're at Cal State Northridge on this particular night, and heck, fat old disc jockeys like we are, we couldn't play a whole basketball game, so we would bring in some record acts to play on our team, Jan and Dean and people like that. Well, we were up there this Wednesday night, and Bobby Boris Pickett was on our team. They could do the mash, the monster mash, you know. And he was doing a lot of commercials at the time. So I said, Bobby, how do you do these commercials? Here again, I'm trying to get out of radio because I'm not very good. And he said, well, my agent is Abrams Rubloff. And my friend Charlie O'Donnell again said, Bob, you can't sign with Abrams Rubloff. They're a big agency. You have to have credits. I said, Charlie, I'll bet you $5 I can sign with them. So I bet him $5 I could sign with him. I called my friend Ned Tannen over at MCA, who was one of the execs at MCA that I had met. And I said, do you know Noel Rubloff? And he said, yeah. I said, would you make a call for me? And he did. So I go walking in to see Noel Rubloff, and he says, there's a guy in town named Chuck Barris that has the dating game on the air, and he's going to do a show called Newlywed Game. And I said, are they looking for a host? He says, well, they've got a host. He said, but let's go see Chuck, you know. So I go in and I see Chuck, and here's a funny little guy, man. He was ABC programming head at one time, daytime, and just a funny little fellow. And I mean that complimentary. You know, he had a urinal on the wall here in his office, and he had a company called the Love Company. And they were a bunch of hippies that run in this company and drove the ABC execs crazy, just drove them crazy. So he said, I've got a host. My host is Scott Beach. And if you remember Mrs. Doubtfire, the very big judge in Mrs. Doubtfire, well, that was Scott Beach. He was part of a group called the Committee in San Francisco. And that was going to be Chuck's host. He said, but I'll let you try out if you want to. I said, well, okay. I had no idea what I was doing, man. So I walk into this room, and here are 4 couples. And a guy by the name of Paul Picard, who was the West Coast head of ABC Daytime at the time, was also in the room. And I started asking these questions, and man, this couple got into it, and it was hilarious. And Picard laughed so hard, and I got credit for it. And he said, you're the host. And Scott Beach will be the announcer. So, you know, we had to show the format to the network. We did what they called at that time a run-through, no cameras. So we were on stage at 1313 North Vine, and here again, I had no idea what I was doing, but there were 4 couples on that stage. Couple number 1 was an unknown comedian named Dom DeLuise and his wife Carol. And the ABC execs are sitting in the front row. Now you got to remember, this is 1966. Television was pretty calm. So Dom was very funny, he really was. But down at the end was a cute little blonde-haired lady. And I asked the question, I said, what's your favorite nickname for your husband? And she said, Numbnuts. And the ABC executives in the front row flipped over backwards, walked up to Barris's office and bought the show without a pilot based on Numbnuts.